Hello friends, welcome to Kavita Medicos Education. So today's disease condition is malaria. So in the ancient times, people used to think that this malaria is caused by the bad air which is present around the marshy land or in the swamps area. Okay. So in the olden days, we think that this malaria is caused by the bad air which is around the swamps or in the marshy land. But after the discovery of a pathogen that is known as Plasmodium parasite, which is discovered by the scientist named as Charles Lavron, it was confirmed that an organism is responsible for causing the malaria. And later on, another scientist known as Ronald Ross, he discovered the mosquito, that is female Anopheles mosquito, which is a vector for this organism. Now let's see the definition of malaria. So malaria is a protozoal infection. So it's a protozoa or it's a parasite. So what are parasites? Parasites are the organisms which lives in the living organism's body and they take their nutrition from any living host. Okay, so this malaria is caused by a protozoa which is which is a species of a plasmodium. Okay, so around the world there are about hundreds of plasmodium species, but only 5 are responsible for causing the malaria. So it's a parasite which lives in the living organism body, that is human or animals. So this malaria is caused by a plasmodium species, and this plasmodium species is transmitted by the bite of an infected female Anopheles mosquito. So here mosquito is acting as a vector, means it is a carrier of this plasmodium species. So the mosquito which is responsible for transmitting the malaria, that is female Anopheles mosquito. So mainly this mosquito will inject its proboscis into our body and it will inject the sporozoid form of this plasmodium into the blood, and from the blood it will go into our liver, it will infect our hepatic cells of our liver, and then it will go into our red blood cells. So the causative organism for malaria is a parasite, that is plasmodium, and female Anopheles mosquito is a vector for this parasite. And we have discussed the scientist Charles Lavron, who have discovered the plasmodium parasite, and another scientist who discovered the vector which is responsible for carrying the plasmodium species, that is Ronald Ross. Okay. Now we have vector for this disease, that is female Anopheles mosquito, and the causative organism for the malaria is a parasite, that is a malarial parasite or plasmodium species, and host is the human or the animal. Now in the world we have around 100 species of plasmodium, but there are 5 species which cause the malaria. So we will discuss about these 5 species. So first we have falciparum. So first species we have Plasmodium falciparum. As the name is indicating, falciparum, this is the most fatal form of malaria. Okay, so this parasite will cause a fatal or dangerous form of malaria. So Plasmodium falciparum is a most severe and most dangerous form of plasmodium, and it causes cerebral malaria or a brain malaria. Okay, and in some people it can also cause anemia and kidney diseases problems. Next, it can infect our all RBCs. This is the most common type of plasmodium which is found in India. Next, we have Plasmodium vivax. This is also a most common type of plasmodium which is found in India. So it causes relapses in the human. Why? As this Plasmodium vivax and Plasmodium ovale get hypnozoid into the liver or get into a dormant stage in the liver for many years. Okay, and when it will come into its merozoid form, then it will infect our liver cell. So this vivax and oval will cause relapses in the human, and this vivax will infect our young RBCs, and mainly patient will have fever in the third day. That is why it is known as tertian malaria. Next we have Plasmodium malariae. It will infect all the old RBCs into our body, and the fever will occur in the fourth day in the patient. That's why it is known as quartan malaria. Next we have oval. It remains in the liver in the dormant or in the hypnozoite form, and after that it causes relapses of fever in patient, and again it will cause a fever in the third day of patient. That's why it is known as tertian malaria, but it causes a mild kind of disease in the patient. And next we have a new form of malaria that is known as Plasmodium novelsi. Novelsi is mainly found in the animals, and sometimes it can also be seen in the humans. So next we have epidemiology of malaria. So malaria in the world can be seen in tropical and subtropical areas of the world, mostly in Africa, Asia, Southeast Asian countries, and Africa have the highest burden of malaria, and a favorable environment is required for the breeding of malarial larvae. So mostly it is seen after the rainy season or in the monsoon season, and it requires a warm climate which is approx 20 to 30 degrees Celsius, and it requires a humidity in the environment which is approx 60%. And the best place for malarial breeding is the stagnant or the collected water. Okay, so this is the epidemiology of malaria. Now, what is the mode of transmission? So the first or important mode of transmission of malaria is by the female Anopheles mosquito. So whenever any female Anopheles mosquito will bite us, then it will inject the sporozoite form of parasite into the blood. Okay, so first mode of transmission of malaria is by the female Anopheles mosquito, but there are some other rare mode of transmission also. So there are some other rare mode of transmission of malarial parasite. First we have congenital transmission. So this malaria can spread from infected mother to the fetus also, because this malaria parasite can cross the placental barrier, okay, and it can infect the fetus also. Next we have blood transfusion. So whenever any infected donor is giving his blood to any healthy person, okay, so if any malarial person is giving his blood to any healthy person, then it can transmit from the blood also. Next we have organ transplantation, mainly the liver transplantation. And next we have contaminated needles. If we are using the infected needle of any malarial person to any healthy person, then it can also transmit. Now, here I have written the simplest life cycle of malaria. We will read this pathophysiology or life cycle of malaria in very detail, but before discussion of that detailed life cycle of malaria, we will go through this simplest flow chart or the simplest life cycle of malaria. Okay, this is the simplest and easy life cycle of malaria which I have written here. Suppose any infected mosquito bite any healthy person. Okay, so when the mosquito will take the blood from any healthy person, then that infected mosquito will inject its proboscis into our body, and it will release the sporozoite into our blood. So sporozoite is the infected form of parasite. Okay, that is the infected form of Plasmodium parasite. So whenever mosquito is biting any healthy person, then that mosquito will release the sporozoite into the healthy person. Now this sporozoite will go into the liver, and they will multiply and divide into our liver, and our liver cell get damaged. Okay, they will get rupture, and these sporozoite now release into our RBCs. Now this parasite will enter into our RBC, and they will infect or inject our RBC, or they will do infection into our RBC, and after some time what will happen, our RBC will get burst out. Whenever RBC get burst into our body, then we develop the symptoms of malaria, okay, due to the chemical release from the RBCs. So whenever the RBC gets burst into our body, then our body will develop fever, chills and rigor, which are the main symptoms of malaria. Now, the person get infected through the parasite. Now, when any another healthy mosquito will bite that infected person, then that healthy mosquito will take the sporozoite from that healthy person, and now this mosquito will infect any another person. In this way, the malarial transmission takes place. So this was the simplest flow chart of life cycle of malaria. So now we will discuss the life cycle of malaria or pathophysiology of malaria in detail. Suppose this is a healthy human being. So when any infected female Anopheles mosquito will bite this healthy person, okay? So what is happening here? A healthy person is being bitten by a infected female Anopheles mosquito. Now the infected form of Plasmodium is known as sporozoite. So when this mosquito will take the blood meal from the healthy person, then this mosquito will release sporozoite into the blood of that human being. Okay. So with the saliva, when this mosquito is taking the blood meal, then with the saliva, this mosquito will inject some sporozoite into this human being. Okay. So now with the help of blood or by the lymph, these sporozoite form of Plasmodium will travel into our liver. So this is our liver. So in liver we have hepatic cell. Okay. Now this sporozoite will go into the hepatic cells of the liver. Okay. And they will do their multiplication or asexual reproduction in the hepatic cell of the liver. So this multiple fission or asexual reproduction in the hepatic cell of liver is known as cynult. So what is cynult? Cynult is a form of sporozoite, okay, which is doing its multiple fission or asexual reproduction in the liver cell. Now, when the liver cell will get infected, then after some time, this liver cell will get burst out, okay. So here the liver cell get burst out, and now this cynult or multiple fission or asexual reproduction have converted this sporozoite into a form that is known as merozoite. Okay, so this Plasmodium is changing its form quickly, okay, so that our immune system cannot find it. So this sporozoite goes into the liver hepatic cell, and there it do the multiple fission that is known as cynult or asexual reproduction. After some time, this hepatic cell will get burst out, and so many merozoite will release into our blood. Okay, now some of the merozoite will again infect the new healthy liver cell, and some of the merozoite will come into the blood vessels. Okay, now some of the merozoites are coming in the blood vessels. Okay, they will infect our RBCs now. So sporozoite is infecting two things or two organs or two things into our body. One is liver and other one is RBCs. Now this merozoite will come into the RBC. Okay. Now they will change their form in the RBC, and from the merozoite they will convert it into a ring-like structure. This structure is known as tropozoite. Okay. So this merozoite is converting its structure into a ring-like form that is known as tropozoite. Okay. Now this cycle is taking place in the RBC. That is why it is known as erythrocytic stage. Our RBC are known as erythrocyte, and this cycle is taking place into our RBC. This stage is known as erythrocytic stage. And if this cycle is taking into the liver, okay, which is not our blood, this is liver. So this cycle is known as pre-erythrocytic stage. Pre means previous. Okay, before the RBC, these sporozoite are dividing into our liver. That is why it is known as pre-erythrocytic stage. Now, in the RBC, they will do asexual reproduction or multiple fission again. Now, they are doing their multiple fission or asexual reproduction into our RBC also. Okay, after some time, what will happen? Our RBC will get burst out, and this sporozoite form of tropozoite, okay, now get converted again into the merozoite. Okay, they will again converted into the merozoite, and our infected RBC will get burst out. Whenever RBC is bursting out, then it will release a pigment that is known as hemojoin. So, due to the release of this hemojoin pigment, patient have symptoms of malaria like fever, chills and rigor. Okay, due to the release of hemojoin, we get symptoms of malaria like fever, chills and rigor. Now this RBC is burst out and again these merozoites are released. Now there are two fates. Okay, there are two conditions which can take place. One, that whenever the RBC is bursting out, some of the merozoite will again infect the new healthy RBC, but some merozoite will get converted into the gamete. Okay, some merozoites are going to infect the new RBC, but some of the merozoite will again get converted into the gamete. Okay, so this small gamete is known as male gamete and the bigger one is known as female gamete. Okay, now this person is suffering from malaria. Okay, see, I have divided the board into two categories. We all know that malaria completes its life cycle in two hosts. Okay, it's a digenetic phase of malaria. Digenetic means mosquito, this malaria is taking place, it's asexual reproduction in the human being, and other cycle of sexual reproduction it will get into the mosquito. So mosquito actually do a digenetic phase. Digenetic means when the mosquito is completing its life cycle into two hosts, that phase is known as digenetic phase. So now see, this human being is completely suffered from malaria. Now in his blood he have malarial parasite. Now when another healthy female Anopheles mosquito will bite this infected person, okay, so the person who have malaria or who have gamete of malaria, now any other mosquito which is a healthy Anopheles mosquito will bite this person, and this mosquito will take the blood meal from that infected person. Now this mosquito takes its blood meal from the malarial person. When it will take its blood meal from that malaria person, then the gamete will transfer into the mosquito. Now this male and female gamete will get transferred in the another mosquito, another Anopheles mosquito. Now see, the other life cycle is taking place in the mosquito itself. Okay. Now this gamete will do the fertilization. Microgamete is a male gamete and macro means a bigger gamete. Bigger gamete is a female gamete. Now they will do their fertilization and they will form a zygote. Okay. Now this zygote will divide and will get converted into a form that is known as ookinete. It's a long elongated form of zygote that is known as ookinete. Now this ookinete will travel or penetrate into the stomach lining of the mosquito. Now this ookinete or elongated form of zygote will travel to the mosquito gut or mosquito stomach lining. Okay, and after some time it will get converted into the oocyst. This oocyst contains the sporozoite form of plasmodium. This oocyst contains the infected form of plasmodium, that is sporozoite. Now after some time this oocyst will get ruptured. When oocyst will get ruptured, it will release the sporozoite. Okay, and this sporozoite will travel into the salivary gland of the mosquito again. Okay, can you see this sexual reproduction is taking place in the mosquito itself? So sexual cycle is taking place in the mosquito and asexual cycle is taking place in the human being. That is why it is known as digenetic. Okay, that is why it is known as digenetic. It is completing its life cycle into the two hosts. Now this sporozoite will travel to the salivary gland of mosquito. Now this Anopheles mosquito is get infected. Now when this infected Anopheles mosquito will bite another healthy person, then this sporozoite form of plasmodium will travel to the another person. In this way, the life cycle of malaria is going on. So now we will understand the malarial life cycle with the help of a flow chart. It's the simplest flow chart which I have drawn here, and it is the easy way of learning the malarial life cycle. So here we have a healthy person. Okay, so suppose this healthy person is being bite by a female Anopheles mosquito, and this female Anopheles mosquito is infected with the plasmodium. Okay, so this infected female Anopheles mosquito is biting a healthy person. So female Anopheles mosquito bite a human being which is a healthy. So when this infected Anopheles mosquito will bite this person, then it will inject the sporozoite into the blood of that healthy person. So when malaria or mosquito is taking the blood meal, then it will inject its proboscis into the human, and it will insert some sporozoite into the blood of that human being. Now from the blood, these parasites, which are known as sporozoite, from the blood they will travel, or from the lymphatic system or blood circulation they will travel to the liver. Now these sporozoite will reach into our liver. Okay, so these green dots are called as sporozoites. So in liver we have hepatic cell. Okay, liver is formed by hepatic cell. Now in liver, these sporozoite will multiply, or they will do multiple fission process here, okay, or they will do asexual reproduction in the hepatic cell of the liver. So these sporozoite will multiply inside our liver cell. They will form cynult. So what is cynult? Cynult is a multiple fission of the sporozoite, or asexual reproduction of a sporozoite. Now they will infect our hepatic cell and they will multiply into our liver. They will form cynult. They will do asexual reproduction. After some time, our hepatic cell will get ruptured. Okay. Now, when the hepatic cell will get ruptured, now this cynult, okay, when they will do multiple fission, or when they will asexually reproduce, then they will form merozoites. Okay, now merozoites are formed. So new sporozoites are converted into a merozoites. So now merozoites are released from the hepatic cell. After some time, what will happen? The hepatic cell of the liver will get burst out, and lots of merozoites will be released. Okay, now these merozoites will travel into our blood circulation, and they will enter into our RBCs. Okay, now these merozoites are enter into our RBCs. Now again, they will do their asexual reproduction or multiple fission in the RBCs. Now, first they will form a ring-like structure into our RBC. That ring-like structure is known as tropozoite. Okay, so what is that ring-like structure is known as tropozoite. Now, the merozoites are enter into our RBC, and again they will change their form and they will convert it into a tropozoite form. It's a ring-like structure, and then again they will go in a schizogony form. So what they will again form a cynult here. Cynult means when they are doing multiple fission or when they are asexually reproducing. That process is known as cynult. Okay, so this tropozoite will become thick, and that is known as cynult. It will again multiply into our RBC. Okay, now our RBC are infected now. Okay, so our RBC will get infected, and due to the multiplication into our RBC, what will happen? Our RBC will get burst out. So when our RBC will get burst out, it will release a pigment that is known as hemojoin. Okay, so due to this hemojoin pigment, patient get the symptoms of malaria like fever, chills and rigor. So whenever our RBC will burst into our body, Then a pigment is released that is known as hemojoin, and due to this hemojoin pigment, patient get the symptoms of malaria like fever, chills and rigor. Okay. Now see, again this cyzone will form new merozoites. Okay. Now lots of merozoites will be released from our RBC, and a hemojoin pigment will also released into our body, which will lead to the symptoms of malaria. And from the cyzone, they will form new merozoites. Now, there are two conditions. So, what are those two conditions? First condition, that whenever the RBC will get rupture, then some merozoites will enter into our new RBC, and this cycle will go on and on. Okay, this cycle will repeat. Okay, so some merozoites will enter into our new RBC and they will infect our new RBC, but some merozoites will form the gamete. Okay, some merozoites will enter into our new RBC, they will infect our new RBC, but some merozoites which are released from the RBC, they will form the gamete. The small gamete is known as microgamete. This small circulation dot, this one, is known as microgamete, and the big gamete is known as macro. Macro means a female gamete. So female gamete is little bit bigger and a male gamete is little bit smaller. Now, this person will develop the symptoms of malaria. Okay. In this person, he have gamete in his blood. That is male gamete and female gamete. Now, when another female Anopheles mosquito which is not infected, okay, now when any another female Anopheles mosquito will bite this person which have malaria or which have gamete, okay, now this female Anopheles mosquito is taking the blood from that malarial person. With the blood, this female Anopheles mosquito will take the gametes. Okay, so with the blood, when this mosquito will feed in a malarial person, then this female Anopheles mosquito will take the blood, and with the blood, these gametes will travel to the mosquito now. So asexual reproduction is taking place in the human being. Okay, now the sexual reproduction of malaria will take place in the mosquito itself. Okay, so sexual cycle of malaria will take place in the mosquito. Now these gametes travel to the mosquito. Okay, so some become gamete and another mosquito will bite that infected person, and mosquito will take the blood from that person, and with the blood he will also take the gamete. Now these gametes are inside the mosquito. Now see what is happening inside the mosquito. Inside the mosquito, sexual reproduction is taking place. So these gametes will fertilize together. Okay, they will do the fertilization, and after the fertilization they will form the zygote. Okay, now this zygote will get converted into a ookinete form. Ookinete is a elongated form of a zygote. Now when it will form the ookinete, then this ookinete will travel to the midgut of the mosquito or the stomach lining of the mosquito. So this gamete have done fertilization, they will form a zygote, and this zygote will converted into a ookinete. Now this ookinete will travel to the midgut or stomach lining of the mosquito, and after penetrating the stomach lining of the mosquito, this ookinete will form a oocyst. This oocyst contains the sporozoite. Okay, now this oocyst is filled with the sporozoite. After some time, what will happen? This oocyst will get rupture. Okay, this oocyst will get burst out, and it will release lots of sporozoite in the mosquito gut. Now this sporozoite will travel to the salivary gland of the mosquito. Now this sporozoite, they will go to the salivary gland of the mosquito. Okay, and now this female Anopheles mosquito contains the sporozoite into its salivary gland. Now this infected female Anopheles mosquito will bite another healthy person. In this way, this life cycle will go on. So we can say that mosquito completes its life cycle in the two hosts. Okay, one is human being and one is mosquito itself. Okay, So mosquito completes its life cycle in a two host. That is why it is known as digenetic phase. Okay, digenetic means when mosquito is completing its life cycle in two hosts. Okay, in human being it is completing the asexual reproduction cycle. Okay, in human we have asexual reproduction of malaria, and in mosquito the parasite is completing the sexual cycle of malaria. Okay, so it is completing its life cycle in a two host. That is why it is known as digenetic. So this was the easy flow chart of the malarial life cycle.